Today we're heading north, deep into the Arizona mountains. I'm going to show you what it's like to live off-grid in a van by yourself. I'll discuss my thoughts on loneliness and share some reasons why you might like to give this lifestyle a try. For some context, I've been living in a van for over 7 years. I split my time between living alone in nature and city dwelling, which can bring a lot of social interaction if you want it. So buckle up. This is going to be an insightful ride. Welcome to my home on wheels. I converted a retired U-Haul into an off-grid tiny home. I included modern conveniences to make it very comfortable. Everything within my home is powered by solar and batteries, so I can live off-grid indefinitely until I need to head into town to resupply my food and water. I want to take you guys back 7 years real quick and explain how I ended up here. 7 years ago, I was living the typical American lifestyle. I was working 50 plus hours a week, and on top of that, maintaining a house. I felt like my life was in fast forward. I was always rushing to the job site, rushing through the work week to get to the weekend. And then on the weekend, I was rushing through home projects so that I could just carve out a little slice of time to myself to do something I enjoyed. And it just didn't feel right. I remember one day, I'm in my early 30s at this point, and I remember one day just thinking, is this it? I just live my life on fast forward until hopefully one day I can retire and then I get to live life on my terms. That just doesn't make sense. So I remember I took one weekend completely off. I filled my SUV with camping gear and I drove about 90 minutes out to the mountains near a lake. And I just drove down a random Forest Service road, parked under a tree, and I spent the whole weekend there. And I can remember the first night I was sleeping in the back. I folded the seats down. I had the window cracked. I was just laying there. I felt the cold breeze blow across my face. I was listening to the wind like rustle through the trees. And I felt a level of peace and relaxation and clarity that I had not felt in a very long time. And it was in that moment that I realized I wanted this to be my default. I wanted my default to be calm, peace, mental clarity, and then only allow the busyness and the noise of the outside world to come in on my own terms. And at that time, I wasn't rich. And so the way that I realized I could do it is if I sold everything I owned and moved into a van. It's been 7 years now, and I'm still doing it. So I've traded my morning commute for a cup of coffee in the mountains. I really enjoyed the fact that I'm living in nature, but also I have the freedom to relocate and wake up in a variety of different places. Whether I'm high in the mountains or low in the desert, I experience a lot of variety and the scenery never gets boring. I have a new level of inner peace and mental clarity like never before. Now I'm still working and paying taxes, contributing to society. I like to start the day checking emails, working on my laptop, doing anything that requires a lot of creativity. Then around 10 or 11, I like to go for a morning walk in nature. So I want to show you guys something. I was out walking around this morning, and I was looking at my window, and I noticed, look at this big, like, dusty print on my window. And look how high that is off the ground. For scale, I'm 5'10", and the window is, like, that footprint is almost a foot above my head. Or that little, I think it's a bear. I think it's a bear paw. So I go for a walk every day, multiple walks. I do one in the morning, and then I do one kind of afternoon, like right now, after I finish some work. And I'm super observant. So I didn't see that print at all previously. I only saw it today. So I think it's new. Oh, look at this, guys. There's like a deer hoof. Like maybe that bear was trying to get into my rig, couldn't get inside to old Nomad Brad, and so he decided to eat a deer instead. So definitely makes me grateful to have the box truck. That's one thing I do want to say is I feel super safe inside the box. Like if I'm in my box and the door's locked, like I'm scared of nothing. Even a human, not even scared about it at all. Box feels super secure, super safe. And I have some self-defense measures set in place inside my truck, so I'm not worried about it. Yeah, super grateful for that security. But anyway, we're gonna go for a little walk and just see what's in the area. So one of the questions I get asked the most is if I get lonely in this lifestyle, right? And I think there's like two ways to look at that. I think the first part is just in general, are you lonely from not being around people as much? And then the second question is, are you lonely in the sense that you're not in a relationship? The short answer is I'm not lonely. In my previous life, when I was busy in the middle of everything and working and hustling and, doing all that normal human job stuff, I was always rushing and stressed out, and the world was very noisy. I was always on the phone, talking to clients, talking to coworkers, sending emails on social media, listening to podcasts. There was just so much noise, and there still is so much noise, even more so today than 7 years ago in our society. And I feel like it was hard to really even think and relax. So right now we're just walking down this forest service road. So the van is parked back here. The road coming in is only a couple hundred feet from my campsite, so it was a super short distance to get up to where I'm parked at. So all along this road, there's little pullouts where you can park, have a little campsite. Here's a pretty big one right here. Looks like you could circle up quite a few vehicles, have a little camp out. Unfortunately, people come up, some people, and they trash them. They leave a bunch of junk behind. There's an old lunchbox. There's some kind of a rolling suitcase. Here's a bunch of old clothes. There's a flip-flop. So unfortunately, the trashy humans come in and make a mess. And that's why a lot of these public lands get closed down. I would say the majority of us public land enjoyers are super respectful, and we want to preserve it and keep it nice for future generations. But then there's always the trashy folks. Literally trashy. The trashy folks that don't care, and they feel a certain level of entitlement, and they just come and make a mess out of it. So it's unfortunate. They got a really nice view right here of the forest through the trees, the forest through the trees. And so I've kind of been trying to explain to people what I'm doing now. I finally came across a video from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he actually calls it conscious solitude, right? So the idea is that you're consciously choosing solitude. And it really resonated with me. And he basically said, when you're constantly around people all the time and external stimulation, social media, in person, hanging out, talking on the phone, being around other people, your brain is getting dopamine hits from those interactions, whether it's a like on a Facebook post or talking to a friend or whatever it is, you're constantly getting little dopamine hits. And so dopamine it feels good and it's enjoyable, but it wears off quick. And then you need more and more dopamine to kind of keep that feeling going. And he says it's actually the exact same neural pathways that are responsible for substance addiction. So dopamine addiction is a real thing. And so he says when you're ultimately around that, you're constantly feeling drained because you're constantly chasing more dopamine. And the source of the dopamine is external validation, right? It's from other people. And I'm not trying to put anybody down when I say this, right? I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad or say everyone should be living alone in the woods. But for me, it definitely resonated. And so he says, when you choose conscious solitude, you actually end up rewiring your brain and you kind of pull back from the dopamine addiction and you're able to be more creative and start focusing more kind of on creating your own neurochemicals. And he said through research, they've actually found that people start producing high levels of serotonin once they are out, kind of by themselves in solitude in nature. And serotonin is kind of known as the happy drug because it can produce feelings of euphoria. And I think there's a lot of people that are feeling similar, that are just feeling burnt out in life in general. And I think it's a combination of all different kinds of factors. But I think one of it is we're just so bombarded on a daily basis with all the messaging and the apps and all the constant connection. When you think back about a lot of the famous artists and composers and inventors and a lot of the really, really smart people from history, I'm hearing all kinds of little animals scattering around. I'm just watching for bears. When you look back at a lot of these really successful inventors and creators from history, they were known for their solitude. And I think there was a reason for that. I think when they had solitude, they were able to just really lock in and focus with their thoughts, connect with nature, connect with, if you believe in some type of a greater consciousness or an ether or something like that. I think there was something to that. And I think there's a reason why current society is constantly bombarding people. I think they want the world to be noisy. I think they want people to be distracted and unable to focus, and they want people to turn to media and smartphones as their drug. And I think it's by design. Have you guys noticed when you go into like almost any restaurant or store, they're just pumping the jams? And it's always the same BS top 40 music, whatever mumble rap is popular. I mean, I was in a really nice restaurant a couple months ago, like a high-end steakhouse, and I was looking around and it was all older people dining, and they were playing some top 40 mumble rap on the radio. And I'm just like, why is that? Why is it that they're pumping this everywhere? And I think it's all part of the distraction. Now, that being said, I do still associate with people. If you've been watching my videos, I spent all summer last year in San Diego living with a whole group of nomads. I had the most interaction I've had in 7 years last summer. This winter, I spent a ton of time with family and with my nomad friends, Sir on Dave and Scott and Jason and King Gamer over in Eastern California. And so I do still enjoy people and I hang around people, but the difference is my default is kind of solitude, right? And then from my place of solitude and of thinking and of rest and of creativity, I leave that to go interact and associate and be social. But then I retreat to my solitude to recharge and to, do what I do. And so that's the difference for me. And then, also there's the idea of a partner, right? A lot of people have asked also if I'm lonely not having, like a girlfriend. And so for me, again, the answer is kind of similar. I've had girlfriends. I had a girlfriend about 2 years ago. I've had girlfriends on and off throughout van life. And I'm definitely open to it. I'm not against people. I'm not anti-people. I'm not anti-relationship. I'm not red pill, women are evil. But now that I've come to like really value my peace and my solitude, the only way I could bring a partner into that is if they had similar values, right? So I would need a partner who also appreciated nature very heavily, appreciated solitude, and, valued the quietness and the stillness that nature and this lifestyle provides. And so when you're living this lifestyle, the dating pool is already a lot smaller, right? Like I would need a lady who's a nomad, also in my age range, also, I'm attracted to. So it definitely narrows down the options. And so I have no doubt that I'll find the right person at some point, maybe in the near future. But it's definitely one of those things where it's not as simple as it would be for someone living a traditional lifestyle. And that's just one of the factors that I've come to understand and to accept. But long story short, I'm not lonely. And what I tell people is if I was lonely, I would change it. I mean, you can live in a van and live in a single city. You don't have to travel all over the place. If you're someone that really enjoys being social and you enjoy, having certain spots, right? Like you have a gym, you have certain bars you like, you got a good group of friends, you can live this lifestyle and stay in a single city. You don't have to be crazy like Nomad Brad and travel the whole country. I think the main reason anybody would want to do this, the main reason is one, probably financial. You want to save money, you want to spend less, or maybe in general, you're just looking to lower your overhead, right? Like for me, like this could be part-time. This could be part-time if you have a goal, like you want to buy a house, and in the meantime, you just don't want to have to pay $1,500 to $2,500 a month to rent some apartment, but you're making money and saving and, so you could say, hey, I'm going to live in a van for a year, save up and buy a house. That's totally legit. Or, the other option is for somebody like me who says, I've tasted traditional life. I owned a business. I worked a lot. I was a homeowner. So I've already done all that. And I just decided that's not for me. For me, this is more of a long-term play. Just keep my overhead super low, keep saving, investing, stack cash, and just not have the burden of rent, mortgage, property tax, fixed location. So for me, it's a long-term play, but it doesn't have to be for everybody. So there's different advantages to it, different reasons one might choose it. It's obviously not for everybody. You have to be comfortable with nature. You have to be comfortable with change, a lot of change. Locations change, friends change, grocery stores change. But what I would say is, if you're in a position where you're really stuck financially, especially to the point that it's affecting your mental health, like you're just working a job you hate your boss, you feel like it's a dead end, you're barely making bills, you can't see a way out, the quickest way out is to lower your expenses. Because lowering your expenses creates leverage where now maybe you don't need that job as much. Now the boss doesn't have it over on you, right? You got options. So you could relocate, get a new job, take some time off. You can make moves by having a mobile lifestyle with a very low overhead. So I think that might be attractive for somebody, especially younger kids. I see a lot of videos now, like on TikTok, of high school kids just out of high school, college, 18, 19, living in cars, because the jobs they're able to get just don't pay that much. And I know for me, if I was in my early 20s, I'd much rather pay myself and stick my money in the bank and save up to make my next move, to change locations, to buy a house, to start a business. I'd much rather put my money towards savings and investments to create leverage rather than sinking every penny I have into rent that's, only temporary and it's just draining you on a monthly basis. So I think especially for younger folks, I think it's a good choice. And if you're looking to slow things down, bring a little more peace into your life, a little more mental clarity, detox from the dopamine, I'd recommend you give it a try. Head outside for a day, a couple nights, maybe get crazy, buy a van and take off on a road trip. Either way, I hope you can find some improvement, and I hope you liked this video. And if you made it this far, I want to say thank you. I appreciate you being here. Tune in next Sunday, and we're going to do another one. I'll be heading into town next week doing a little stealth camping. Who knows what's going to happen? But either way, I'm going to be here, and we're going to find out together. That's it for me, guys. Nomad Brad signing out. Peace.
A couple little baby horses. Look at that, little babies. They see me, they're not freaking out. Oh, look. Here's one in the bushes. What's up, buddy? How's it going? Pretty sure horses don't get aggressive, right? Hi. How we doing? Wanna say hi? Hello. Hi. He seems friendly.